guys, if you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Okay guys, happy Friday to you. It is Friday, May 31st, and it is 9:28 p.m. There are no Q posts for today, but there are lots and lots of Q-related news items to go over. I'm going to be talking about some pretty serious subjects tonight, so I probably won't be kidding around as much as I normally do. Also, let me get off of this infinity screen because I know it bothers some of you guys. Now, I also got my new glasses today, and I'm having a little bit of trouble with them, and I've already got a headache from wearing them while I've been researching. So anyway, it just takes a little bit of getting used to because it's a different prescription. So I feel like I'm always having to turn my head just the right way to get everything in the sweet spot. Anyway, I'm hoping that they have something to take away the glare. So I'm hoping that you guys will notice a difference with that, because I know for myself, watching people, I like to see their eyes. And, if they're wearing glasses and there's just glare there, it's very distracting. So hopefully this will be better. Anyway, we're going to get into some really heavy things tonight, so I'm just warning you in advance. So if you're in a bad mood or depressed, might not be the best night to watch, just saying. But I never want to bring this stuff to just load you down with it. I really don't want that. In fact, I feel like I need to warn you. In fact, the stuff that we talked about in terms of the pandemic that is surely coming. We've got a lot of news about that tonight, and so I want you guys to be prepared because there's not a lot of people talking about it out there. So anyway, and also I wanted to take a minute and thank you guys, those of you that have become Patreon supporters, and those of you that buy me coffee every now and then. I really appreciate it, and it means more to me than you realize, because it keeps the channel going, because it gives me the time that I can take to research it without worrying about, oh, I've got to do more freelance work and this and that. And so it allows me to spend time searching through the news and bringing items to you that I think that you will benefit from. So never feel bad ever if you can't, because there are a lot of people that are in dire financial straits all over, and I don't ever want anybody to feel guilty. You're as welcome could be here. So let's get into it, and we'll start with this. Now, this is just breaking today. What am I doing wrong here? Okay. 11 dead, gunman killed in Virginia Beach shooting. So we can probably rest assured that we know what the narrative is going to be over the next little while. It's going to be gun control. And they're going to use this. I don't know what happened yet. 11 people were killed and 6 were injured in a shooting Friday afternoon at the Virginia Beach Municipal Center. The suspected gunman was also killed. Virginia Beach Police Chief James Cervera said the shooter was a longtime employee of public utilities and about 4 p.m. began to indiscriminately fire upon all victims. Let me get rid of this right here. The suspect, who Cervera did not identify by name, was killed after exchanging gunfire with police officers. He's not included in the 11 victims Cervera reported dead. One of the people injured was a Virginia Beach police officer who officials said was saved by his vest. Thank God he was wearing his vest, really. It saves police lives every day. One of the people injured was a police... Okay, I just read that. Cervera did not offer a motive in the shooting and did not clarify what kind of firearm was used. While the scene is secure, we have a long-term investigation process that is being undertaken right now, he said. There's a lot of work to be done. We have more questions than we have answers, he added. None of us want to be here talking about this devastating incident that is going to change the lives of a number of families in our city. The attack occurred in a single building in the 30-building complex. The area is still on lockdown. So no motive yet. He just walked in there and started shooting indiscriminately. And my guess is they're going to find out he's mentally ill, and you'll see why I'm saying that in a few minutes. We'll tie this into something else that is being passed, a law, and I think it will tie in quite nicely. At least I think it does. So wouldn't be surprised if he's been mentally ill and he's had former contact with law enforcement. But we'll have to wait and see on that. But that's my guess right now, just considering everything that's in the news right now. All right. Here's a map of the Virginia Beach Municipal Center off Princess Anne Road. Building 2 has been the focal point of the police activity. The building houses city operations like planting, public utilities, public works, zoning, etc. Chopper 10 video, people were rushed out of the building. We still don't know how many victims there are. Well, now we do. There are 11. But the FBI confirmed they are assisting in this investigation. The FBI is also responding to the incident to assist local authorities. An FBI spokesperson confirmed to The Hill. Sentara Healthcare said it is treating 6 people who were injured in the shooting at 2 of its hospitals. 5 patients were sent to Sentara Virginia Beach General Hospital, and another was sent to Sentara Princess Anne Hospital. So our thoughts and prayers are certainly with the victims. Virginia Governor Ralph Northam said he is monitoring the situation and advised people to avoid the area. And my team and I are actively monitoring the situation in Virginia Beach. Please stay away from the area and follow all instructions from law enforcement, he tweeted. White House spokesman Hogan Gidley said Friday evening that President Trump had been briefed on the shooting in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and continues to monitor the situation. That was updated tonight at 7:56 p.m. It's now 9:30 p.m., so it's fairly fresh. Yeah, well, it'll be very interesting to see what becomes of this. It really will, because I don't know. It's too soon to say whether it's a false flag. There's not enough information there for us to really determine what happened. If any of you happen to be in the area and know any more about this, please put it in the comments below, because we'd all like to know. And it's actually people that are close to these situations that can inform us all, because certainly someone in Virginia would know more about it, probably, especially if they're in the area, than any of us would. So there you go. Now let's go back. I'm sorry, I'm really having a little bit of difficulty, and I don't know if this is normal or not. Maybe some of you guys that wear glasses can tell me, because it seems to be that depending on the way I turn, different things are in focus, and it's very odd to me. My other glasses were not at all like that. So I don't know if they have made an error or I'm just going blind. I don't know. Anyway, let's go on here and stop talking about my glasses. Now, here is the next thing that I want to get into. This is very important, extremely important. And this is why my comments were what they were for the last news item that we just covered. Pre-crime is here. Law enforcement's new TAPS system predicts if you pose a future threat. Now, this is alarming, and what's even more alarming about it is the lack of people covering this, and perhaps the lack of people that even know about it. It's certainly not one of those big topics for YouTube commentaries, and I've seen one person covering it pretty in depth on YouTube, but other than that, I haven't. And so I'm wondering if this is I haven't seen it at all in the news, but then I don't watch mainstream news. I get a lot of my news through reading the computer and so forth. So I don't know. Have you seen anything about this on the news? It's called TAPS. It has been nearly 2 years since I reported on the dangers of creating a law enforcement-run mental health assessment program in Texas. Police use mental health assessments to screen every person they have arrested for mental illness. That's why I said I thought he probably had mental illness and had contact with law enforcement officers in the past. And the reason is because that is what they're using as an excuse to bring this bill out. It's called the TAPS Act. It was first introduced in January and would take law enforcement screenings to a whole new level. It would create a national threat assessment of children and adults. In the course of 6 months, the Threat Assessment, Prevention, and Safety Act, called TAPS, Threat Assessment, Prevention, and Safety Act. It is H.R. 838. And has seen support of the bill grow to nearly 80 Congress members. Yeah. National Threat Assessment Program announced during National Police Week. Politicians are master manipulators. What better way to garner public support for a National Threat Assessment Program than to introduce it during National Police Week? And who better to pick than Congresswoman Katie Hill, who laid it on thick, as KHTS article revealed. We do this first to honor the sacrifice of these men and women in blue who put their life on the line every single day to protect us in the vital role that law enforcement plays in the safety and well-being of our communities and our districts, said Babin in his opening statement. And secondly, to highlight a bipartisan solution that we all are working on to protect our communities and schools from the terrible acts of violence that we have seen and are getting to be almost routine. Taken at face value, the TAPS Act sounds like a noble attempt to stop school shootings, but not all is as it seems. And it never is it? Not anymore. So, the TAPS Act would encourage law enforcement to give everyone a personal threat assessment, kids and adults, and single out those that they deem as future threats. Now, I don't know if you've seen the Minority Report. If you haven't, might be time to bring out that dusty old movie. I don't know when it was, it seems like it was a long time ago that it came out. It has Tom Cruise. He's not my favorite, but has him in it. And really, I remember when I watched it, I thought, you know what, this is you know how they tell us about what they're going to do before they do it? I knew when I saw that, this is coming. And it was like, you know, they had a scene where a guy was about to murder his wife. Now, this isn't to that extent yet, but he was going to murder his wife, and they break in and they prevent him from murdering his wife, and they arrest him. And he says, but I haven't done anything. And they said, yeah, but you're gonna. And this is the same thing, you know, because you can have your freedoms taken, your guns taken, everything, you know, all your freedom taken if they deem you as a threat. Well, now look at what has been going on in the news. Look at what has been going on to censor conservative voices and any voices that, you know, differ at all with the mainstream narrative, with the accepted narrative. So what if they deem that we are a threat because we don't go along or we are against the acceptable, socially acceptable narrative? Well, then we could have our freedoms taken. We could have our guns taken. Yeah. So it would encourage law enforcement to give everyone a personal threat assessment, kids and adults, and single out those that they deem as future threats. And by bringing threat assessment experts together and utilizing evidence-based behavioral threat assessment and management processes, we can bolster public safety by implementing strategies to identify and stop dangerous individuals before they can commit an act of violence. Exactly like Minority Report. We find them and we get to them before they commit the crime. Now, it sounds good, but you know, things aren't as they seem. We have the expertise to combat the targeted violence plaguing our schools, places of worship, and public spaces, but we have yet to fully implement it to prevent attacks. The TAPS Act has all the earmarks of a paranoid police state that considers everyone a potential threat. And herein lies the danger. Everyone is a potential threat. And how they assess your threat level, they don't tell us. They don't tell us what behaviors are going to be viewed as a threat. Is it going to be like China's social system, where you're given a threat assessment score instead of a social credit score? I don't know. That's the thing. Nobody knows. The TAPS Act will create a joint behavioral threat assessment and management task force to identify individuals that exhibit patterns of dangerous behavior that may precede an act of targeted violence. According to Senators Marco Rubio, Kristen Sinema, and Tom Tillis, the TAPS Act will create a national behavioral threat assessment and management process for everyone. Requires the task force recommendations for the development of the national strategy to ensure consideration of the different needs and resources of communities across the country and will not be construed as a national standard, include recommendations for the most effective leveraging of existing federal, state, local, and tribal infrastructure, workforce, and experience, include recommendations to increase collaboration between government agencies and private entities that focus on public safety responsibilities, include recommendations on training programs to disseminate to state and local entities, include recommendations for a behavioral threat assessment and management school violence prevention program to train and support a multidisciplinary and multi-school violence prevention program to train and support a multidisciplinary and multi-jurisdictional behavioral threat assessment and management process for educational entities. Bills like this mean America has joined paranoid governments like China and Switzerland who consider kids to be potential threats. Now, when it talks about where you can go for, now they don't call it re-education, but that's exactly what it is. You can be sent to a fusion center. Oh, we've all heard about fusion centers. Yeah, this is Orwellian in scope and nature. Absolutely, purely Orwellian. Last Wednesday, the Swiss government proposed new laws that aimed at preventing extremist violence and forcing people, including children, deemed a threat to be registered with authorities with house arrest, a last resort in some cases. Didn't we learn anything from incarcerating Japanese Americans and the war against communism? The never-ending war on terror and the TAPS Act should not be used as an excuse to destroy our Bill of Rights. You know, the things that, and there is I wish I could remember his name now, but if you look up TAPS Act or HR, is that 838? I believe it's 838. HR 838. There is a guy on YouTube that's covering this quite extensively. Now, he is anti-Q, and he's not so much, well, he's a little anti-Trump, but he's not pro-Hillary. But what he has, the information that he has about this is very, very good. And if I could remember who he is, I would recommend him to you, but you could probably find him on your own. This is literally, from what I've read about it, bone chilling, really, because you are going to have people in your community that are able to make decisions about your life based on your threat assessment. Now, sure, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, yeah, but if you're a school shooter, that's a good thing. Sure it is. Sure it is. And it'll start out being that way. Sure it will. Yeah, they'll say, well, this person, they're violent. They draw all these violent pictures of killing people and they talk about it on social media. And okay, yeah, that person is probably a threat. Absolutely. However, they never leave it there. So what happens when, people that don't believe in abortion, they're a threat, because they are the people that go and shoot up abortion clinics and kill people, and so now all of a sudden you're placed in some database because you don't believe in abortion, or because you are a conservative, because you believe in Christian values, whatever. So I think you know where I'm going here. And I think probably most of you, maybe not all, but probably most of you will agree to me to some extent So anyway, let me know in the comments below what you think about this. I don't think too much about it, quite frankly. It scares me because, yeah, you know, the things you have to fear. We're from the government and we're here to help you. Yeah. So anyway, let's look at this. Because we're going to start getting into talking about epidemic threat assessment. Epidemic threat assessment. Maybe we need something for that. Okay, Venezuela doctors fear country is at risk of deadly epidemic outbreak. So we've got countries all over the world now sounding the alarm on this, but not here in the States. No, you don't hear it in the news, do you? The thieves descended on the Institute of Tropical Diseases in downtown Caracas from a nearby forest. Once inside the compound that is part of the Central University of Venezuela, they went on a rampage, leaving behind a trail of littered floors, broken glass, and smashed doors. They took away medicine, computers, printers, microscopes, cables, laboratory glassware, and air conditioners. Foolishly, they also stole laboratory animals like rabbits, mice, and chicken inoculated with parasites and bacteria. Who knows what could have happened to these people? They could have gotten severely sick or put other people in danger if they sold the animals in the market, said Dr. Nahir Martinez, 50, the head of virology department at the Institute, the biggest and most prestigious in the country. Worries were etched in the otherwise placid faces as she walked through the desolate part of the compound where the stolen animals had been held. Now, you can't really blame these people for stealing the animals. They're starving to death. You can't find a dog or a cat in Venezuela. They've eaten everything they can eat. They're starving to death. And, you know, they see all these animals and, you know, maybe some of them don't think, well, gee, maybe these are contaminated with something. They're probably just hungry. This recent break-in, one of dozens the Institute has suffered in the last couple years, shows to what extreme desperate Venezuelans are willing to go in order to survive in a country plagued by widespread lack of food, medicine, and basic goods. However, the most devastating consequence of the burglaries, the loss of computers that contain national information about possible virus hotspots, databases of infected patients, and other vital records. I wonder if Hillary was there. You know, she's good at getting rid of things, you know, bleaching them. And, yeah. However, the most devastating consequence, okay, I just read that, with medical experts already lacking consistent and up-to-date information about the virus occurrences, excuse me, these incidents serve as another blow to the doctors, scientists, and medical researchers trying to keep Venezuela safe from the real possibility of a lethal epidemic outbreak. Venezuela, with its diverse ecosystem, perfect temperature range, and human migration, is home to all kinds of infectious agents. Experts say they know any spread can be checked by vigorous information sharing and strict adherence to sanitary rules. All this broke down in recent years, and when we add to the mix missing medicine, no running water, poor diet of many Venezuelans, and robberies, we have an explosive cocktail, said Dr. Oscar Noya, 67, a leading expert on malaria at the Central University of Venezuela. Noya points to malaria as one possible catastrophic outbreak. According to Noya, the increasing number of malaria cases is actually alarming. Back in 1961, Venezuela was the first country in the world that eradicated this life-threatening disease transmitted by mosquitoes. Now, there might be up to 2 million cases of people suffering from malaria symptoms, Noya estimates. I'm afraid any infectious disease could sweep through Venezuela at this point, he said. He is far from being alone in his bleak assessment. Dr. Julio Castro, 55, another prominent expert in the field of infectious diseases, is deeply worried that Venezuela could be the next Haiti of 2010. That year, this part of Hispaniola was destroyed by an earthquake that killed more than 300,000 people, according to the government estimates, and less than a year after the tragedy, Haitians were decimated by a cholera outbreak that took another 10,000 lives. Cholera in Venezuela, on a scale of Haiti in 2010, really scares me, said Castro, who also worked at the Institute of Tropical Diseases. Venezuela is struggling with persistent blackouts and water supply shortages, and just like Haitians, many Venezuelans now drink from and bathe, wash dishes, and relieve themselves in nearby rivers, inviting an infectious disease to emerge and spread. Another issue, according to specialists, are dry pipes beneath Venezuelan cities and villages. They provide a welcome refuge for rats, cockroaches, and other critters, exposing households to contaminated water once it starts running again. Everyone in Venezuela should boil any water they get. The medical professionals often blame the government for the information gap in disease prevention. The Nicolas Maduro regime does not release figures about public health data, just like there are no publicly accessible statistics about inflation and crime. Castro refers to the lack of government data as an informational blackout to keep the population and the world in the dark about what is occurring in Venezuela. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of this, well, let me just read the sum up here. Since epidemiologists worry that a potential outbreak might simply be caught too late after it's already spread, when it would be very hard to deal with. Martinez, the virologist, shares this concern. Now, as a result of the break-ins, she can't make diagnosis of many viral diseases like Zika, chikungunya, and Mayaro. Here at the Institute, we are the last line of defense, but we've become increasingly powerless, she said. Often, we only have a sensation of what might be happening out there. It's tragic what's happening in Venezuela, and we really don't have any information about what's going on there. And I don't know if people are able to get out beyond the borders and move up into Central America. I don't know. If they do, they could eventually make it to our border, of course, and that would not surprise me at all, as that seems to be happening worldwide, and I think it's being coordinated by someone with very, very deep pockets, because it seems like we are having people arrive at the southern borders from all over the world. All right, let's get out of here and let's go back. And we've got lots to get into here. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen this website. It's RSOE EDIS. And what it is it keeps track of all the threats worldwide that are happening at any given time. And it has a section for threats that are ongoing. It has a section for earthquakes, volcanoes, epidemics, probably pandemic if we had one right now. Anyway, this was, I didn't realize they were on Twitter, and I found them today, and I started following them because I used to look at that website all the time, but it reminded me of it, and I went and I spent a great deal of time kind of, sorting through things and, assessing where we are. And it says USA, Friday, 31st of May, epidemic hazard event has been observed in the state of California. Well, that piqued my interest because of everything that we've been talking about in California. And indeed, now I didn't include measles, okay, because measles is just unbelievable in California, Washington. There were several states where measles outbreak is really quite alarming. But I did want to show you something. Now this, and I just clipped this from the website and pasted it here to show you. This is the epidemic hazard, and look where it's occurring, at the LAPD Central Community Police Station, Los Angeles, state of California. And what's going on there? Well, typhoid fever. So, and isn't it interesting that it's at the police station? Probably an illegal that's been apprehended. I don't know. It may not be. Could be anyone. But they've obviously done something wrong because it's at the police station. So it's somebody probably that's being detained. Now, also, and this is at the LAPD Police Station Pacific Division Station. there is 4 confirmed cases. This is at the police station, okay? 4 confirmed cases of MRSA, which is methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, and it's like a breathing problem that can be fatal. And that's at the LAPD police station, Pacific Division Station in Los Angeles. And then look at this. In the state of South Carolina, we've got an outbreak of hepatitis A, and it's covering an infected area of up to a few kilometers. And in New Mexico, we have hantavirus, which is caught through the urine or feces of infected rodents. And in states of New York, New Jersey, and Illinois, multi-states have this, and it's actually quite severe, as you can see by this little threat assessment. There are 587 people with Candida auris, which is a drug-resistant fungus, and it is becoming more and more entrenched every day. And remember, yesterday I had put that at the top because I wanted to look into it. I was hearing people talking about this and that it was spreading rapidly, and I didn't know what it was. I mean, I knew that it was some form of fungus because of Candida, but this is drug-resistant fungus, which can be fatal. So it's serious. So yeah, we've got all sorts of things going on in the country. People like to think that we're safe and that they'll keep the infected people at the border and they won't pass through into the interior. Well, good luck with that, because they're not catching everybody that comes through. There's people coming through every single day, and they're getting around barriers, or they're going to places where there are no barriers, and they're getting across. People from all countries. I think somebody said there's 70 some countries represented by these people. It's not just Mexicans. It's not just Central Americans. And some are from the Congo. Yes. Where half of the area of the Congo is infected, according to this website, and it's always been correct in the past. Because here it is right here, and this is where I cut this off from the RSOE website, and it's an epidemic hazard, and look at the damage level they're reporting here. Catastrophic. There isn't any, there's no, that's as bad as you can get here. It doesn't go any further than that. It's catastrophic. Now, do you think that they would, if they had it under control, they'd be calling it catastrophic? No, they wouldn't. It's a nationwide event, and the event affected more than 50% of the area of the country. Now, they're obviously knowing that it's going to spread because all the surrounding countries are holding drills and all sorts of things for Ebola to know how to handle it properly. So I don't know how, you know, it's like, don't lock the barn door once the horse is out. You don't do that. You know, the horse is out. No sense in locking it. And this horse is out. It's out and running. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm trying to bring fear porn. I'm not. I'm trying to bring you the facts. And I went to the source to get the facts because I don't want to be just saying, oh, it's bad, people. No, I want you to know exactly what you're dealing with. Okay, right now in the U.S., there's a threat here. Absolutely, there's a threat here. There's already people here with Ebola. Now, you know, and I'll show you how I know that. All right, so it's catastrophic, and dead persons, 1,281. I know what you're saying. You're going, well, that's no big deal. That's no big deal. Well, there's currently right now 2,200 people infected, and there's 24 people missing because these people don't willingly go to clinics. Like I told you, I guess it was yesterday or the day before when I covered that, they're afraid. They're afraid to go to the clinics, because They don't know. They think when they point that thing at their head, they're reading their mind, and they have all sorts of superstitions around this, and they haven't had real good, feelings about people coming in from other countries to their nation. If you know anything about the history of the Congo, if you want to read a book that you will absolutely wonder how come you never knew this. It's called King Leopold's Ghost. Unbelievable what went on in the Congo. Or if you've ever read the book Heart of Darkness, absolutely chilling. So you can't blame them. You really can't blame them. So there's 24 people missing. They don't know where they are, but they have Ebola, and they're running around the Congo somewhere, and they're infecting everybody they come in contact with. And are people dying that don't get reported? Oh, I bet they are, because people are afraid to go to the centers. So, and it's a very rural, it's not all rural, but a lot of it is very rural and backward. So I bet you people are dying every day and not getting reported. That would make sense to me. Now, let's go down to here. And then I'm going to show you something that might make you rethink whether we're at threat here. Ebola warning, crisis at maximum level, UN warned. The Ebola death toll continues to rise at a staggering rate in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, with charities now urging the UN to step up efforts to the highest possible threat level. And it is at the maximum level. It doesn't get any, once it's catastrophic, yeah, it's catastrophic. Charities are urging authorities to increase Ebola prevention work to the highest level of emergency response in the Democratic Republic of the Congo as the disease continues to spread at a rapid rate. More than 1,200 people have died from Ebola in the DRC, with almost 2,000 reported cases since the outbreak began in August. Yemen, Syria, and Mozambique have all been categorized as level 3 response. I'm hoping that this is what I... I want to make sure that this is, it's from yesterday, so it's new, it's fresh news. All right, Ebola outbreak live on Knife Edge, virus spreads as, I don't know what that says, Ebola outbreak. Okay, she told The Guardian there's never been an epidemic of this complexity or size in the DRC. She said the crisis required a new structure in line with the scale of the outbreak. The Global Humanitarian Coordination Body Interagency Standing Committee will meet on Wednesday to consider increasing the emergency response to the Ebola threat in DRC. I'm just so full of good news tonight, aren't I? I know. Cheer you right up. Nothing like bleeding from all orifices to cheer a person right up. All right. The global now they will study the scale and complexity of the epidemic and assess the risk of failure in responsiveness to the outbreak. They've already failed. They're not saying that, but they've already failed. They can't get it under control. How do you get it under control when there's 24 people missing? And you think about that. Those people are going to die. Are they going to die at home? Well, if they die at home or with relatives or whatever, they're all going to die because they've had contact. And the body, especially after it's died, is highly, highly contagious and has to be buried properly. And if they die out somewhere, then animals could eat that body or someone could come across the remains. I mean, and if they've gone to a city, which is what I heard, that some were loose in a very large city, they could be just infecting everyone. And then those people could be getting on flights and flying all over the world. Yeah, it's not good news. Level 3 emergency is implemented when agency responses do not equate to the severity of the crisis. Last week, the UN announced measures to increase their responsiveness to the Ebola epidemic, including appointing a new emergency coordinator, David Gressley, Tamba Emmanuel Danby Sa, Oxfam's humanitarian program manager in the DRC said the announcement was a step in the right direction. He told The Guardian this demonstrates the importance that is being placed on the response. Now having this translated into concrete actions to enable us to deliver services and access funds as required will be critical. The profile of the response needs to be raised. Speaking about how to raise responsiveness, he added, the approach does not have to be a normal approach. It means engaging with leaders of militias. We need to do that. Mr. Danby Sa also said that more funding needs to be given to humanitarian and community work, and stressed the need to help charities safely access Ebola-stricken region. The risk of Ebola spreading to other provinces in eastern Congo and to other countries remains very high. Russell Geeky, spokesman for the UN Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, said in a statement, a tenth of the global caseload of people in need of humanitarian assistance is in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So, yeah, it's very serious, and now other countries are having Ebola drills. That's right, including the US. So let's get to that next. And here we go. Ebola drills held statewide, including Mercy and Cox hospitals. Emergency crews go through Ebola outbreak exercise in Springfield. I believe it's in Springfield, Missouri. You've heard of tornado drills and disaster drills, but on Wednesday across Missouri, there was a statewide Ebola drill for medical facilities to plan their response to the rare but often fatal virus. Mercy made its drill available to the media in a rare opportunity to see how employees work diligently to prepare for all types of infectious disease scenarios. In this case, the Ebola patient was actually a nurse volunteering for the drill, but as she entered the decontamination area at Mercy Hospital, she would see a room divided into 3 separate sections and hazmat-suited medical personnel there to take her through the process. We divided this room into hot, warm, and cold areas, explained Russ Conroy, Mercy Director of Emergency Preparedness and Safety. Before we'd done anything, we want to keep the highly infectious isolated here in the hot zone. Once we have them decontaminated, we move into the warm or cold zone, and that's where we are safe to work. The patient is then assessed in an isolated room separate from the rest of the emergency room, where they are also placed in a clear plastic bag-looking device known as an isopod. The isopod is a negative chamber in which the air is filtered both coming and going. Conroy said it gives us a way to work with the patient without directly being in contact with them, and it's great for moving. From there, the isopod is scrubbed down with bleach, and the patient is then handed off to a hazmat-suited EMTs who transport her to a waiting ambulance and a trip to Barnes Jewish Hospital in St. Louis for further evaluation, and eventually to an Ebola treatment center in Nebraska or Iowa. The drill offered a learning. Now, they obviously must have these Ebola treatment centers in Nebraska or Iowa, don't you think? The drill offered a learning experience for everyone, including the practice patient, Chrissy Boss. It was a little scary for me, so I can only imagine as a patient what kind of experience that may be for them, she said. When they wiped the isopod down with bleach, the fumes became very strong. That was a lesson learned, Conroy said, of the bleach problem. That's something we had not heard before. Evaluators from the National Ebola Training Education Center, the National Ebola Training Education Center. Did you know we had one? We do. We're on hand at both Mercy and Cox for Wednesday's drills, and although there have been only 11 reported cases of Ebola in the U.S., and that most certainly does not include the 6 that are on the border right now and the others that disappeared. We have, let me see. Officials like Kendra Findlay with the Springfield Green Company Health Department said being prepared is vital. I think it's really It's incredibly important, Finley said. With any infectious disease, there's always the potential for the spread to other areas of the world. We have, as an example, the Assemblies of God headquarters here, Conroy added, so we have a significant number of missionaries that go all over the world that come back here. Not that they're contagious, but that's just a heightened awareness that we need to keep at all times. We absolutely need to be prepared for this, Boss said. It could affect everyone. If you travel anywhere on an airplane, you could be next to someone that is traveling back and been infected. In humans, Ebola is spread through direct physical contact with infected body fluids. Not anymore, because now they are finding people infected with Ebola that they don't know how they got infected because they weren't around anybody that had Ebola. Yeah, so I don't know, but did you know that the CDC owns a patent on a mutation of Ebola that is airborne? Sure do. Look it up yourselves. Don't believe me. Yeah, flu-like symptoms mark the early stages of the virus, making it hard to diagnose, but its Republic of Congo origination is part of the puzzle in determining the illness, whose fatality rate is between 25 to 90%. And most of the highest fatality rate is among children. Just because you start off with flu-like symptoms, really what we're worried about is tagging that with travel to an Ebola-affected area, Finley explained, and how doctors come up with diagnosis. And that's why they ask you. I know, well, actually, yeah, I think both countries, both Canada and the U.S. ask you, where have you traveled recently? Where have you been traveling? Where have you traveled to? And they ask you that when you just cross the border in a car, too. So there you go. Probably don't ask on the southern border, though. Yeah, that was an eye roll. Okay, now let's get back to here, and I want to show you this about Candida auris, which I was talking about. So much good news here. Yeah, cheer you right up. Sorry. Really, I am, but I do feel responsible because I just don't feel like there's very many people covering this, and I think we need to know. Health officials are warning the public about a deadly fungus called Candida auris. C. auris is frightening to health experts who see it as yet another superbug that's resistant to standard treatment. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention describes C. auris as an emerging multi-drug resistant yeast that can cause invasive infection and death. I wonder if they hold the patent to that. I should look into that. I wonder if this is a designer disease. Candida auris is the first identified multi-drug resistant fungus. There's a fungus among us. The fungus has been reported most frequently in hospitals and nursing homes and is spread when people come in contact with contaminated individuals, surfaces, or objects. Medical researchers are attempting to determine where C. aureus originated, how it was able to spread in such a short period of time, why some strains are resistant to conventional treatment, and how the fungus is able to wreak havoc and death so quickly. Yeah, it's emerging all over the world, by the way, this Candida auris. Simultaneously. That's a little odd. Just saying. Here's what you need to know about the Candida auris. The CDC calls Candida auris a serious global threat. It's often multi-drug resistant, difficult to identify with standard laboratory methods, and it has caused outbreaks in healthcare settings. General information about Candida auris, fungal diseases at the CDC. Well, yeah. Candida auris, learn how you can stop it from spreading. All right, C. auris first popped up in 2009 when it was isolated in the ear of a 70-year-old woman. Its name derived from auris, the Latin word for ear, in the 10-year census debut. Oh, it had a debut. La, 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 I'm a fungus. Has spread rapidly around the globe and has now been positively identified through Asia, Africa, the Americas, and Europe. The CDC says that symptoms typically include fever and chills that don't respond to antibiotics and rest. The elderly, infants, and people with compromised immune systems are at greatest risk of contracting Candida auris. On June 24th, 2016, the CDC issued a clinical alert to healthcare facilities warning them about C. auris after receiving reports that the pathogen was killing patients in hospitals worldwide. It spread easily, killed rapidly, and preyed upon each healthcare facility's weakest patients. In a 2018 study appearing in Emerging Infectious Diseases, 45% of patients with C. auris died within 90 days. It's unclear to researchers if it's the fungus that caused death or if Candida auris weakens a person's immune system to such a degree that the patient succumbs to other maladies or maladies, however you want to say it. Candida auris is on the rise. Scary article in New York Times on the rise of Candida auris, a multi-drug resistant superbug. Interesting, multi-drug resistant Candida auris appears to have arisen as a result of antifungal pesticides used for commercial agriculture. As we apply more pressure on Anthropocene, era planet, you can expect more and more of these resistant bugs to arise. Well, goody. Yeah. Health experts have growing concerns that Candida auris has the ability to spread rapidly. Researchers are troubled that the germ suddenly appeared and then quickly traveled around the world. Unlike most other Candida infections, C. auris can be transmitted from person to person and may be present in the blood, urine, and lungs. The disease's knack for spreading easily through medical facilities and nursing homes, tough to destroy, C. auris can remain in the environment even after a thorough cleaning and hide in nooks and crannies. In some sounds like Thomas's English muffins. Look at all those nooks and crannies. I'm sorry. You know what? That was very immature of me, but sometimes when things get really heavy, I just have to joke. In some cases, medical facilities have been forced to tear out flooring and ceiling tiles as part of their decontamination process. C. auris can be resistant to antifungal drugs. Well, we already know that because they've just told us 100 times. Unlike other types of yeast infection, Candida auris has been found to have varying degrees of resistance to the 3 classes of drugs that have traditionally been successful in treating fungal infections. One study shows that 98% of C. auris samples were resistant to one of the 3 classes of available drugs, and 1/3 are resistant to 2 because drug development is a lengthy process. Most health officials are concentrating on trying to keep the fungus in check. Hey, fungus, don't come any further. I guess that's what they're doing. Researchers are searching for answers as to how C. auris developed a resistance to antifungal medications. One theory is that the use of crop fungicides, well, we don't really care how it developed at this point. It's here. The fungus is difficult to identify. Fungus, identify yourself. Candida auris can be challenging to identify because the symptoms are so similar to the flu or common cold that testing for the fungus is often overlooked. Look, symptoms similar to the flu. Everything, all these pandemics are similar to the flu. It's like you could have Ebola, you could have Candida auris. They'll both kill you. The Food and Drug Administration, FDA, announced in April 2018 that it had approved the first rapid test for C. auris with results in under an hour compared to traditional testing, which took 24 to 48 hours. The rapid test was able to positively identify C. auris 100% of the time. Well, that's good news. They can identify it, they just can't cure it. New York currently has the highest number of cases in the U.S. So, yeah, look at that. There's New York. And I think they had 587 cases in New York, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken, but I'll never be mistaken for a fungus because I identify myself, unlike the fungus. According to the CDC, most of the confirmed C. auris cases in the U.S. have been discovered in New York and New Jersey. New York has had 309 confirmed cases, while according to RSOE, which I trust more than these guys, it's higher. Anyway, the New York State Department of Health has stated on their website that they are taking aggressive action to keep C. auris in check. Hey, you, no further. And have instituted a number of protocols in hospital and nursing homes throughout the state. These protocols include site reviews. Oh, that should help. To access infection control compliance, testing environmental samples, and requiring clinical staff to participate in advanced infection control educational programs. Well, that's always a good news. That's always a good idea. All right. Now I'm getting silly because I'm getting tired, but
11 people were killed and 6 were injured in a shooting Friday afternoon at the Virginia Beach Municipal Center. The suspect...
We know that already. And you know why we know that? Because I covered it All right, let's go back because I have a few other things to get to. Now, looky here. Animal advocate, Make America Great Again, put this to my attention, said, Mishel, D. Bytes, you were so right about Ebola being here. Read tweet. And this is by Brian Colfage. He said DHS, Department of Homeland Security insider, exposed to us Congo migrants have made it to the USA with confirmed cases of Ebola. 3 are in custody in Laredo, Texas, and 6 in Laredo, Mexico. And in Juarez, next to our wall. So there's 9, plus there's others on the other side of the wall. And somebody told me it has been going around. I've heard it so many times that I'm really thinking it's true that several of the ones that had Ebola they can't find them anymore. They've I doubt they've gone back the other way. I'm thinking they've probably crossed over into the United States at this time, but a lot of the people that were arriving from the Congo had fevers, they were saying, so not good. All right, so that might be now, yeah, and this as well, Trump administration. I'm not going to go out to it now because it's getting late and I don't want this video to be like 5 hours long or anything. Well, that's exaggerating slightly, but the Trump administration, well, let's go here because this is important. So Trump administration deploys dozens of DHS agents to Guatemala-Mexico border. If President Trump's decision to impose tariffs on Mexican imports and withhold aid money from Central America were examples of the stick, then the White House is following up with a surprising carrot. After Trump's surprise tariff announcements triggered a steep sell-off in markets on Friday, it appears the administration is pivoting to a novel new strategy, sending dozens of DHS agents and investigators to Guatemala to try and stem the tide of unauthorized immigration. First reported late Friday by the Washington Post, acting DHS Secretary Kevin McCallum has reportedly lobbied heavily to take more muscular approach to working with local governments to solve the root cause of the immigration crisis, according to a memorandum of understanding with the Guatemalan government signed by McCallum. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right. Approximately custom agents and DHS investigators will be deployed to Guatemala to work side by side with local police. U.S. agencies will help train local police as well as assist in law enforcement actions to improve criminal investigations to try and break the stranglehold that powerful drug gangs have on society. The agents will be deployed along the Guatemala-Mexico border where they will focus on some of the poorest areas of the country. U.S. troops are expected to carry weapons, and according to the Washington Post, in what appears to be a trial run, DHS agents helped Guatemalan police arrest 9 suspected smugglers in Guatemala City. Now, I'm not going to go on and read all this, but I did want you to be aware of it. Well, actually, let me just read the sum up here. Washington Post points out that there is a legal precedent for sending American personnel to Central America, the DEA, which has been doing it for years, but those operations are typically much more limited in scope, seeing that the deployment looks similar to the military's use of American advisors in parts of the Middle East. We can't help but wonder, have fears about boots on the ground in Venezuela being misplaced. Could Central America be a more likely candidate for American military intervention in this hemisphere? Well, we don't know. We don't know, and they're certainly not making it well known. I mean, this is from Zero Hedge, but I don't know the extent to what they're tasked with and what they are trying to accomplish. And it could be multi-pronged. We don't know. So anyway, let me get out of here and go back here, make sure I've got everything that I wanted to cover tonight. Oh yes, right here too. This is very interesting. Lisa Mae Crowley retweeted this, and it's from it's clandestine at Rod Sneaky. It's got a picture of Rod Rosenstein, but it really isn't him, obviously. And this person said, "Oh, I read you loud and clear, sir. He is purposefully leaving out the Q and did it 3 times to draw attention to it, to confirm it's not a mistake. Hey, POTUS, aren't you forgetting the Q? 5-5 and 5 by 5, of course, means loud and clear. We get you. You left out the Q 3 times." And that is in this post by Donald J. Trump as we celebrate LGBT, should be LGBTQT, I don't know, I never can get them in the right order, but there should be a Q in there. As we celebrate LGBT Pride Month and recognize the outstanding contributions LGBT people have made to our great nation, let us also stand in solidarity with many LGBT people who live in dozens of countries worldwide that punish, imprison, or even execute individuals. So I don't know. I would assume that Donald Trump did that on purpose. He seems to communicate a lot that way. It seems odd that he would leave out the Q. So I am saying that this is probably another Q proof, another tweet of his that points directly to Q. All right, and that was about the shooting, and we've already covered that. And let's just look at this real quickly, and then I'm going to sum up, well, not sum up, but wrap up, rather. I'm not going to literally wrap up because it's hot. Well, it's not really hot, but it's spring. Okay, UN torture expert Assange showing symptoms of intense, I don't know, I've got allergies and that's why I keep itching my nose. I'm not trying to be rude, really. And I'm not picking it. I'm not. UN torture expert Assange showing symptoms of intense psychological trauma. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is suffering from intense psychological trauma in a British prison and should not be extradited to the United States to face politicized show trial, according to a UN human rights investigator. Now, my question is he really, or are they trying to keep him from being extradited to the States because they know he will be asked to testify? I don't know. I don't know the game that they're playing here. And it's sometimes hard to tell because things might appear to be one way, but they seldom are anymore. We can't even believe our own eyes anymore. UN torture expert Niles Melser visited Assange in a high-security London prison on May 9th, along with 2 medical experts, only to find the journalist under severe stress, agitated, and unable to cope with his complex legal case amid chronic anxiety, according to Reuters. Our finding was that Mr. Assange showed all the symptoms of a person who has been exposed to psychological torture for a prolonged period of time. The psychiatrist who accompanied my mission said that the state of health was critical. He told Reuters in an interview in Geneva, adding, "But my understanding is that he has now been hospitalized and that he is not able to stand trial." Now, are they saying this so that, I mean, I don't know. Is this a game that they're playing and saying, oh, well, he's too sick to stand trial because Britain, of course, is involved in the UK is involved in the spying with Trump and so forth, along with the other Five Eyes nations. And so are they trying to prevent Mr. Assange from testifying and standing trial? I don't know. I don't know what this game is, but I really do hope that he is okay. And this is just a ruse or false information. Said our finding was that Mr. Assange shows all the symptoms of a person who's been exposed to okay, I think I've already read that. I did. Meltzer's comment come after Assange's attorney said he was unwell when he failed to show up for a London court hearing Thursday regarding his extradition battle. The 47-year-old is currently serving a 50-week sentence in the UK's Belmarsh jail for skipping bail. According to WikiLeaks, he has been moved to the prison's health ward. Mr. Assange has been deliberately exposed for a period of 7 years to progressively severe forms of cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment, the cumulative effects of which can only be described as psychological torture, said Meltzer. Meltzer, a Swiss law professor, did not say which judges or senior politicians have been had been defaming Assange, but that dozens, if not hundreds, of individuals had expressed themselves inappropriately. Here we are not speaking of prosecution, but of persecution. That means that judicial power, institutions, and proceedings are being deliberately abused for ulterior motives, he added. British Foreign Minister Jeremy Hunt, in a tweet posted within minutes of Meltzer's statement, said, "This is wrong. Assange chose to hide in the embassy and was always free to leave and face justice." The UN Special Reporter should allow British courts to make their judgments without his interference or inflammatory accusations, he said. Assange was charged by the United States last week with 18 new counts related to conspiring to obtain and disclose classified information endangering national security. He has been accused unlawfully of unlawfully publishing the names of classified sources and conspiring and with ex-Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning to obtain the classified information. He faces decades in prison if convicted. I'm seriously, gravely concerned that if this man were to be extradited to the United States, he would be exposed to a politicized show trial and grave violations of his human rights, said Meltzer, adding, "The main narrative in this affair really is the United States wanting to make an example of Mr. Assange in order to deter other people from following his example." Meltzer also said he didn't expect Assange to be tortured using traditional methods. "I would much more expect him to be subject to prolonged solitary confinement, to very harsh detention conditions, and to a psychological environment which would break him eventually." Now, the thing is, yes, he would be subjected to a trial, but, I think it's more that they don't want him to say who gave him those files, which, of course, was Seth Rich, who was subsequently murdered. So I don't know. Let me know in the comments below what you think is going on here, because it's getting very hard. And it's getting lately especially very hard to determine who's good and who's evil and who's just gray. Seriously, because I don't know. I don't know. I don't think of Julian Assange as a criminal. Maybe I know some of you do, and that's okay. We can agree to disagree, and maybe it's just that I don't have all of the facts, but I just don't look at him as a criminal, and I certainly don't want him to be harmed psychologically or otherwise. So there you are, and I'm going to wrap it up with that because I've been going for longer than an hour now, and you guys are probably getting tired of hearing me. So there you go. I will be back tomorrow. Well, if all goes well, I'm certainly planning on being back tomorrow. So if Q posts, I will post on that. If not, then I will find other news. Hopefully I can find a little bit better news for you guys, but I do feel a sense of responsibility to bring you what I perceive to be the truth. Now, if someone can correct me, I'm always open to correction if given other facts that I need to consider, but I don't think the prospects are good for us avoiding an epidemic or pandemic in the near future. I just don't. Whether it will be limited in scope or, cross country or global, I don't know. But I do know that they are expecting something to reduce the population because they are and I've got to remember where I found that and read it. It was from an official source. They're expecting the population to go down tremendously. So something's on the horizon that they know about. And also, Missouri is not the only place that's holding Ebola drills. That's odd. I don't recall us ever having that in the past. I think it's wise. It's certainly wise because of what we're facing, but I don't think that they're really being honest with us about the threat level, and I don't think that they're leveling with us because they never do. So why would they now? But anyway, that's it, and I hope you guys have a wonderful evening and that you enjoy your day tomorrow, and stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking the truth. You know why? Because you can, and because deception bites. Good night, people. Thanks.